I had a real crisis this morning.
Yeah.
I was, I got well, I've been getting some a few PayPal gifts, and I had all this weed, and I thought I had more weed than I actually did. I've been, I wasn't. I was getting good weed, and I was smoking it more frequently to make up for this whole COVID-19 thing, and
Sure, that makes
and
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like
Hey,
uh,
everybody's got to do their part. You know what I
right,
mean?
right. So then, so
Mitigate.
the donations
Mitigate. That's
dried
what
up,
Oh no.
and I hadn't been to the weed store, and I thought surely there
What's
must be
your
more.
what's your ve- what's your
What's that?
Venmo?
I
You
think
have
there's like,
Venmo?
yeah, I got Venmo, and there's like an underscore in it. So just fucking, if you got an underscore, you might as well say fuck. I'm
Do you have
fucking.
do you have
It's and yeah, Andrew. I think underscore Andrus.
well, here's
And
the thing. Do you have your telephone with you right now? Do you have Venmo,
yeah,
the Venmo app on your phone?
yeah.
Well, pick up your phone,
Yeah.
press the Venmo app, press the home button, and it'll show you what your Venmo
Oh,
name is.
okay. I thought you were gonna say amount. I was gonna tell you. I know what that is.
No, but then you can
Oh,
give
okay. Yeah,
you can give your Venmo.
It's Andrew dash Andrist,
That's it.
and
All right.
my
At Andrew
Venmo,
Dash Andrews.
my Venmo and PayPal are fucking goose eggs, just like what I deserve, and I don't deserve anything. That's what I get. That's what. But for a while there, I was like I said, it felt like the Jody Arias as a canteen card kept getting filled up, and I was like, shit, man. It's like I murdered Travis, and I get all these gifts too. and
Yeah, trying to find the downside.
yeah. Well, the downside is I'm no Jody Arias, and I didn't murder Travis, and nobody. It's like I got some nice
You
gifts.
had
It's
we
like Christmas
we
is over. So I got some Oregon weed.
I
I heard
think
it. I
you're
heard it.
making adjustments.
Yeah, so today.
You might be trying.
There he is. Audio.
All right, we'll get there.
Yeah. Baby steps. Yeah, this would be like today was like, man, I thought I had more weed and I scrounged around for it and I didn't set up, and then I was like, I'm out of fucking weed almost. Which is like for me being almost out of weed is like being out of weed. I'm not a junkie that's like jam the last of my drug into a needle and then I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go shopping.
No, you're
But
you're
I
acutely aware of it the whole time your weed is dwindling.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I knew I didn't have enough to get through a whole podcast.
The,
So,
the
but I had to.
only time Andy's not acutely aware of how much weed there is when he's at my house and he's smoking Carrie Mitchell's weed because she's the one who's acutely aware of it. She's like, Jesus Christ.
That's
She's
like one of them. That's like a
I
market.
smoked a lot of weed. She's like, holy fuck, I can't even keep up with this motherfucker. He's rolled up all my weed into joints.
Yeah.
He's carrying them around like they're his.
Well, I've been
like,
carrying.
they are his, honey.
Yeah.
I've been
That-
carrying around the luggage of Ralphie May. I got to carry on. I feel like I got to, drag around his habit, with mine. Carry on.
I just say to her, I'm like, if you think it's a pain in the ass to have Andy in a 1-bedroom apartment, imagine what it would be like to have him in a 1-bedroom apartment without weed. So just let him have the weed. We'll go get more.
Or imagine a
Weed's
quarantine
easily
situation.
accessible these days.
Can you imagine a quarantine situation?
No.
Before it was so easy to get weed, those weed stores and such. I would get a bag of weed and my wife would instantly steal a portion of it and put it in a bag and fucking hide it so that when I
Tampa
ran
scrape.
out of weed,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm out of weed. She's like,
Yeah.
no, you're not. What a fucking angel.
Yeah. Yeah, she loves you.
Well,
Yeah, speaking. Hi,
she has to live
Shaylee.
with me.
Hey,
And
Hey.
speaking of, as you call that, the Tampa scrape, as Jenny's doing a Tampa scrape for her loving husband, not trying to hide it for herself, but for him.
yeah.
Mitchell pulled the ultimate Tampa scrape the other day. When we got really fucked up, but a couple Sundays ago, after when the super long podcast we did and drank like 3 bloodies, and then we just kept right on going and fucking, you know.
Yeah, I was on the third.
Someone's gonna have, guess what? Then it turns out the neighbors remembered they had some blow, and it's like, I guess we'll be up till 3 a.m. We just pounded through it. All of our beer was gone, and then like 3 days later, I'm in the bedroom. And then she comes walking into the bedroom, and she just walks in and holds up a can of Miller Lite and just pops it and fucking turns around and walks back out. I'm like, you fucking dirty bitch. 3 days, she said on that fucker. That's the real Tampa scrape from a Tampa Bayian.
That's the vegetable drawer trick.
Mm-hmm.
Jody taught me that one.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to load the half rack of Miller Lights into the fridge because we're at a friend's party in Tampa. And she goes, "What are you doing? Put it in the crisper. Put 4 beers in the crisper. So we got 2 each when we leave." And I'm like an idiot going, "Yes, right. I'm sorry. I don't know how I missed that. That's fucking genius."
Yeah.
Not that we've heard it.
Yeah. Well,
it was genius.
Crisper to you. That doesn't mean that's really where I put it, Andy.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah.
You're hearing the information Shaylee wants you to hear.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know the trick in the comedy condos where you put drugs up on the shelf.
Uh-huh.
Which I've usually, it's come through a couple of times, but mainly it's just, you look and go, man, do they ever clean this place?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, like the thought that maybe, John Fox left the condo left some blow up, crawled up there after putting his dick in the mayonnaise jar and left some blow.
Who's forgetting they have blow? I just don't understand what's going on.
Yeah,
that's
or
never
pills.
Been something that I'm aware of.
That's what I would think. It would be more of like, you got to be careful what pills are. It's like, why would somebody put pills up here?
Yeah, that could be the trick.
Erickson's got a freeze up going.
He's nodded off.
Yeah. He's either that or he's doing a fine.
Wait, he's recording the call though.
That's what I was wondering, if anybody can even hear us if he's froze up. He looks like Ari Shaffir right there.
A little bit, yeah. I'm gonna hurry up and get a snap of it.
I'm trying to get my head at that perfect angle and blend with it.
Their eyes closed.
So I'll freeze up.
I never know what was referenced in which podcast, the Patreon or the regular podcast. But when Erickson sent us the picture that you sent him of fucking your baseball, your gay baseball stance.
Yeah.
You didn't even do it justice, man. That fucking thing was holy shit. I've never seen anybody. Even your helmet looked homosexual. Like the angle it was on, it was
a little jaunty.
Yeah, I got molested to be straight because I was headed. I was headed unabashedly down the trail. I was really in. At some point I got into that musical Grease.
We all did, Andy, but I think you got into it differently. Let's hear your story.
Well, I was a beauty school dropout. I wasn't Danny Rizzo.
I didn't think you were going to come up with Grease Lightning.
I got into Grease as well, by which I mean a chick made me watch it with her one time. That's how much I got into Grease.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was like I remember hearing that from my... who was it? Oh, some girl at my church told me that her dad said I stood like a fag. And that term, and it's like I didn't...
Those are fighting words, Andy.
Well... I almost had a hissy fit. He was an old...
I didn't say those are hissy fit words. Those are put up your duke.
Well,
Marcus
he was an older, he's probably scoping me out or something, but he said that his daughter repeated it and I didn't know what it meant. And then it's like, now years later, I look at the pictures and I understand what I understand what he was getting at. But he was an adult at a church saying I stood like told his daughter I stood like a little faggot.
Yeah, but see, like in hindsight, that was probably the guy who's trying to get a little faggot.
Right.
Whoa.
I Yeah, there you go. Speaking of little faggots,
here I am.
I shouldn't use that.
We're talking about my professional batting stance.
Talking about me before I fucking get back on the call.
Yeah, when you look at my batting stance back as a kid, do you think big leagues or maybe Yankee Doodle Dandy? Like I was, like they put a gay in an outfit in a play, trying to be a baseball player.
It looked like a professional modeling picture of a kid trying to be gay playing baseball, and Sears was like, "That's way too gay. We're not putting that in our catalog, man. We can't do that."
Well, I that's what I assumed why all my underwear photos that were taken when I was in California never made it to the thing. It's like, I don't know, man. It's getting enough photos that none of them are catching.
Yeah. You're photogenic. I don't know what. Maybe they would have took off if they would have been released.
And then my mom was really into dressing. Like she dressed all her kids up. Like we'd do parades and stuff, like actual parades, and I dress up like as an old school tennis player. But it's like what? I mean, a dandy.
She's dressing you like Bjorn Borg.
Right. Well, like even like whenever the opportunity presented itself to dress her boys up like little Nancy's, my mom did it. It wasn't just Halloween. If there was a gay '90s parade or whatever, like put some big socks on, dress like a sailor. I was on the. I think I was on a float one time dressed in a Navy outfit, and I don't think I have that picture. I'm sorry.
So are we.
Yeah. My dad had all these my dad was in the Navy in the military, but he had all these tiny little Navy. I don't know if they shrunk, I hope, or whatever. My dad was never that small, but
like kid-sized Navy outfits?
Yeah, well, they were tiny, like the little when I would wear around these little Navy outfits, and it was like, I'm surprised I didn't, the village people, if they ever saw me, they would have wanted me in the group in some capacity,
John Benet Andrist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was wearing a scouting outfit before I was in the Scouts, Like, what's that all about? Like,
Andy didn't even know it was a group. He just thought it was a cute fashion trend.
Yeah, I joined way before
with other boys?
Yeah, before I heard the and benefits, scouting with benefits. Oh, what's that mean? No, but I told you I had a sexually frustrating scouting experience as the teacher, or it was a lady, and she didn't even care about molesting kids. So
how dare her?
I know. Oh, look at
you had been watching porn and you thought she was gonna try to fuck you on the camping trip.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It's like the guy, I got molested outside of any group or organization. Now that you see on every Facebook scroll, it's like, hey, if you were molested as a scout, join in and get money. Like, fuck, man. I was a scout. It didn't take, I was in organized religion, and nobody, I had to go outside of it. Oh, we lost Erickson again.
Yeah.
I thought he was just contemplating what I said really deeply.
He was stuck laughing so hard.
Damn. Yeah.
At Andy's real life adventures of Big Jim dress up.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. I was saw somebody posted a couple pictures, and then I had the black dude for a while, but then I think he was the first one I threw out in the tree, but I didn't do it in any kind of I wanted to get rid of him.
It wasn't a hate crime.
It wasn't a hate crime. I just threw the black dude into a redwood, and then he never come down. The rescue crew was distraught. But his name was Big.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
His name was Big Jack. I kind of forgot that. So I did Big Jack wrong.
You did say that the black one made you feel the most uncomfortable. So maybe you subconsciously hucked him up into the tree there. I remember
where I got it.
Navy outfit.
There it is. I remember we got it was like you remember the stamp pro? There was like some sort of you collect these stamps from a store, I think it was.
Green stamps?
Something like S&H. And that's where I get.
You filled, and then you got premiums Once
Yeah.
you got certain, like.
And I
like
don't know how
on a credit card.
my family was poor by all standards. Once my dad got handicapped, we went down the chute, you know. But we were rich with them S&H stamps. I don't know if my mom got them from, from people at her work. She worked for the community action, dealing with, it was like a welfare kind of thing, like a welfare checkpoint or something. So she had get
like
all these
community assistance or something like
right,
food
yeah,
bank stuff.
right. So always had those, and then that's where I get Big Jim. That's where I got O.J. Simpson and Evil Knievel. It was with them stamps, but we always had them stamps. Yeah,
You could buy toys with stamps.
at the
You buy
store.
anything
Oh,
if you had
S&H,
enough
yeah,
stamps.
S&H.
Yeah,
I was
there was
thinking
a
of welfare money.
Yeah.
well,
No,
here's
those
a
green stamps were.
here's
you
a
could
real
get
bitch.
anything.
You know how you can't blame your problem, but anyway, my mom got this. My mom was unemployed, I guess, at this time or whatever. And then Kennedy was president, right? Remember John Kennedy? And then
Yeah.
when Kennedy got assassinated, then Lyndon Johnson got the gig. And then Lyndon Johnson started all these entitlement programs for poor people. And one of them was the community action. So my mom got that gig at community action because Kennedy got assassinated, and that just opened the door for all the grifters and scumbags that came into our house and stuff. But if Kennedy hadn't got shot in the head, my mom never would have met all these weirdos. And one of them, the guy who molested my brother, came specifically from that program and lived at my mom let him live with us. And yeah, Kennedy had taken,
I'm a little bit younger than you guys. Explain to me this community action thing and how he ended up in your house.
Well, I don't. Yeah, see, the thing is my mom was she was like somebody who would get, she was a griftee, and she got a job. She got a
Wait,
job.
Is it grifty?
It's like a mark. I've never heard a mark.
Okay, a
called
mark, a rube.
grifty.
Your mom was
Yeah.
a rube.
Yes. So my mom was cool at home taking care of kids, but when my dad got punished by God and put in a wheelchair, and she got this job later on working at community action. But that whole program was set up because of, Lyndon Johnson. But my mom shouldn't have been working at a thing where she was trying to help poor people, because my mom had something that is been a crippling thing in my life, is having empathy and being stupid. Both of those things, having empathy and being stupid, are two fucking curses. Two separate curses, but you don't want them both.
So Andy, I looked it up here, and so what you're saying is that Kennedy was assassinated. Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as president, and he actually started the war on poverty in 1964, which started the Community Action Program, which was under the Economic Opportunity Act of 74, which was a fight on poverty. And that's why you got molested?
No, that's why my brother John got molested.
Oh, okay.
So
No,
this community action plan, it basically just called out and was like, hey, who can take in a fucking psychopath homeless guy or two?
Right. Well, here's in particular,
sitting on the fence with light pedophilia.
we had a van. It was a community action van, and my mom was responsible for the community action van. And of course, it got stolen a few times, but we would take that back in the day out to camp and you guys are going to love this name, Camp Humdinger. I think it was called either Humdinger or there was a hump in there, but I think it was probably Humdinger, because I think that'd probably be too blatant to call it Humdinger and take a bunch of poor kids out to camp. But that's what
it seems like that was kind of the thing they did back then, was be very obvious about stuff.
Right. So it was probably Lyndon Johnson set up this Camp Humdinger, and you would take poor kids out to Camp Humdinger, and I don't know what they did at Camp Humdinger. I only went with them and picked them up, but I did get ringworm. So yeah, it's like that, but I got ringworm for free just from going to camp on the things. But I met a lot of scumbags.
Is this your van, Andy? Is this the van?
I forget what the community action van looked like, but I know it got the last we saw of it got stolen by this guy, and I don't think he returned. It's
How
like
did you
my
get-
mom.
I'm gonna picture it as the Big Jim camper van.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah, full of poor instead of muscle dudes, these were a little thinner,
Wiry.
Not
Yeah.
exactly Team Wolfpack.
Right. Like I guess if you took all of the Big Jims out of the wrecked van with the burns and stuff, they'd probably end up at Camp Humdinger
Yeah.
because of the disfigurement.
Oh,
And if you don't know what we're talking about, you should sign up for the Issues with Andy Patreon so that you can enjoy last episode's Patreon, which was fucking
you have to,
all
you're not
about
gonna get
Big
the
Jim.
call. If you're not a Patreon, you're not gonna get all the callbacks. I guess.
Right.
No.
Yeah, that's the
Not,
confusion.
not this time.
So you found a way to make me more confusing?
Well, yeah.
We thought this was the workaround for that, actually. That's the interesting
Listen,
part.
I'll tell you what. If anybody, if you're not following it, you just Google search Big Jim while you're listening to this.
Yeah.
And Big Jim action figures. You'll just see.
Yeah.
I showed Jenny
Yeah,
last
exactly.
night the picture of him, and I was like, "There's these poor gay kids in the woke time that we live in now. No, they don't have as gay a toy to play with as Andy had to play with.
I don't know
Not even in the ballpark.
Nothing.
I don't.
Not even.
I don't
in the
know.
ballpark.
I don't know if
I
there's
don't remember.
RuPaul action figures, but Big Jim is way gayer than RuPaul action figures.
But it's like it's not that it's like not that self-doubting gay either. It's that clean shaven or nice
Yeah.
crisp beard.
Yeah.
It's-
Wear
Yeah,
a
it's-
shiny outfit. Hey, hockey player guy, whatever.
Yeah.
It really was.
Chad and I were talking about this when we were at the Shady Dell, and we were talking about the characters, and I'm like, Big Jim, yeah, Big Jeff, Big Josh. Wait a minute. How come a bunch of these characters it's BJ?
Yeah, right.
Why did you commit to BJ for all of them and then give him a vest with no shirt, cut off shorts, and cowboy boots? I mean, that's what I mean. It's like it's so blatant. It's like
Yeah.
Oh man.
put
whatever.
candy on the van.
Whatever year the gays were getting pressure, you go, we got to toughen these guys up. And they're like, we're gonna toughen them up. Let's give them some S&M. Okay, break out the fist guy, turbo fist, and the whip.
The whip.
Dr. Steele.
Why is there a disco ball in the camper van? I don't understand this game.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. How come there's not two?
Yeah, this guy got to be called Dr. Steele just because his fist is steel. I don't get, I get it. I get it that you have a fucking silver fist, but that doesn't give you a PhD, and you should not consider yourself a physician.
Yeah,
Sir.
you know that when Dr. Steele came into the group with his steel fist, he had to be like, check out my awesome steel fist. And then Torpedo Fist, who had been in the group for a while at that point, was like, oh, great, another fist guy.
Smell my
thought
fist.
I was
It's
a
my
fist guy.
Torpedo Fist. Torpedo Fist is a big booger now. I get it.
And that's all they. It's their only thing they could do is that. It was like jam a fucking thumb in their back. It's like you're learning how to massage a dude. It's like, how's this feel,
Wait,
Jim?
is there a Big Jim massage table?
Well, Big Jim's back. Big Jim's back was you pushed it in with your thumb, and that gave him the chop. And then
Kung
you
Fu,
go,
the
and then after you chop for a while, then you go, yeah, man, let's flex our muscles. And he flexes muscle. All right, man, let's
and then
change outfits.
Yeah.
I never did get I wanted the accessory sauna, but I could never really get that one. That's what I tried to do with a smoke bomb, but it just turned out horribly.
Well, I mean, thank God that Dr. Steele had the steel fist, because that's the only reason that any of those guys survived the Andy Andrist camper fire.
Well, the shitty part is most of I didn't have some of them. I mean, some of those were new titles, so I wasn't a collector. I just got whatever was on the S&H stamp shelf or whatever. But I was like, You know, they put them right at kid level, and it's like, oh, you know, there's big GI Joes. They're all fucking scarred up, holding weapons, and like walk past us. I'm like, hey, you know, Ken was even too fucking intimidating of presence.
I did zoom in on your Andy plus men picture.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I noticed that, right, one of them was a army man standing next to Big Jim in his boots and shorts, and then one of them was a cowboy. So yeah, you were mix and matching.
Did you see the shoulder pads?
Peopling it.
Did you see the shoulder pads in the van? That made no sense with any of it. You know, nobody was playing football. Yeah, nobody's playing football at all. But their shoulder.
No, there was a sports line of clothing. I love it. They did.
Oh yeah, I had those.
Just trying to sell you the character with the clothing. They sold outfits separately for your character.
They fucking knew their audience, Shaylee. They knew who they were targeting.
So here's something here's a connection with community action. The Huntley family. Oh my God. They had a lot of problems, and my mom and Junice Huntley also, she was a town gossip. She was a lady with a couple of semi-retarded twins. I don't know, you know, if the Huntley twins, Rosie and whatever the other one's name, Rosie and Kathy, and they used to babysit me.
Not only is everyone from Coquille like borderline retarded, but they're also always twins too. Like we had the Munch twins or whatever they were, the Muntz twins earlier, and they're
David movie.
Yeah, the Merritts and
the Merritt brothers.
Oh, so but Junice later in life she would rat me out every time I would, like, you know, or when she'd call my mom and say your son ran in front of a chip truck, which I used to do a lot. And I didn't appreciate Junice Huntley ratting me out, you know. I used to tell, you know, that was the thing. Is the highway ran right through our town, and I would get bored, you know. It's like I'd get bored, and then a chip truck, and I'd go, and you know, I'd wait, you know. I was kind of the, you know, like that game they play, you know, the fucking
chicken.
Well, that's how I did it. I just like wait and then run. I was like, me and my brother would play like baseball, like we're stealing bases. And that would have been in the pickoff throw or what, you know. Right. I never got it.
Ty does not go to the runner.
I did not. I never got hit by. I didn't get hit by a semi truck till many years later. But I would dart in front of him all the time. And Junice Huntley was a town gossip. Would tell, you know, you're and then when I was driving the car fast, Junice Huntley. But when I was a kid, Junice Huntley. So I was down there at the community action playing with my men, Andy and men. And Junice Huntley knew how to sew. So Junice Huntley made me a lot of original outfits she made me. Like,
no way.
Those guys were so ready for Burning Man. I mean, I had
ready.
Yeah. I mean, what I had, so ready. Yeah, like, you know, they had fucking cool funk. Like Junice Huntley knew how to make the Big Jim line really fucking gayer. Like, you know, there was not much she could do.
Wait a minute. So you brought your Big Jim action figure with his outfit on and said, "Can you make this in a size me?"
No, she just made hippie fast. I mean, she saw where that, you know, if they would have kept making Big Jims, and I think what happened is the war movement probably saw like Big Jim as a threat. It's like we can't have kids playing with these guys just driving around having gay sex. Getting along, drinking beers, flexing muscles. We gotta give them guns.
Sure, that's okay during peacetime, but we got a war to prepare for.
I'm probably the only person who killed Big Jims in a war-like situation. You know, like I killed them. They should have died, like, you know, at a rave. You know, instead they died headed to a rave in a faulty. I like to think it was faulty wiring, but I know I threw a smoke bomb in there because I thought it would be interesting.
Yeah, the camper hit an IED on the way to the big party.
Yeah, so it's like, and I remember this as my dad said he wasn't going to get me any, you know, more of those because I didn't treat him well. Like, you know, I remember crying. It's like
he probably saw you throw one into a tree from your window.
Burn one.
Or light them on fire and send them down the hill.
Yeah. What good are a bunch of dudes without some fucking stories, you know?
Really prepping them for life, man.
Yeah. You know, I got shot in the chest with a BB gun and thrown out a window. What happened to you?
So basically, now I see it all. Basically, Andy, before it even happened to you, you had your own unbookables, man.
Yeah, but they were all Mishkas. They wouldn't have sold a Sean Rouse one, and yeah, too much fucking material goes into the Inman, and I don't mean comedy material. It's just like little padded, little fat. They weren't making them like that back then. The closest toy that resembles Inman's body type is those Fisher Price dudes.
Weebles wobble, but they don't go down.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, he's a fucking Buddha, and he's like a Fisher Price. I had a lot of those too back in the day.
Inman does have a real like round fucking head.
Uh-huh.
Like he really is one of those like play school toy things you stick in the bus. Fit in the whole bus perfectly. For like babies.
It would be
head. It's just like that.
It would be like when I had to dissect a pig in biology. But if you had Inman, if you were a first year art student and Inman was your model, you wouldn't want to do it, but you draw him, and it would be a good experience. Because he's so circular. It's like you just take a snowman and then do some erasing and put a few limbs on him.
Yeah, except with Inman, you're just done when you get the snowman circle part of it made.
Throw some work boots on to be ironic.
Odd size.
Yeah. Some tobacco spit dribbling down. There you go. That's who I'm talking about. That's Inman right there.
Yeah,
right off your right shoulder.
He's a Fisher Price toy that never came out of the box. Never did any work out there in the field digging or anything.
Oh fuck!
But I used to have. So you remember the Fisher Price like towns and shit? Mm-hmm. I had a lot of those, and then I had them. I guess I must have played like a little, like them dudes. But then I used all their towns, and then I would put army men in them, and it was like Normandy, like a burnout town or whatever. There was, all these like the schoolhouse, and I had a little thing and a parking garage, and then I would put these soldiers in there, and then me and my brother would shoot them with BB guns. And here was the problem.
That sounds fun, actually.
It's a lot of fun,
and boys getting behind it.
And I feel like right now during this quarantine, it would be a good time to bring that back up. Should have never gotten rid of that shit.
I taught all my kids how to shoot by setting up army men in the yard and different things, and we would sit and shoot BB guns at them.
Yeah, and they're soldiers already, and I don't care for that wounded one. It's like, fuck him. I would melt that guy or whatever. Like, fuck you, dude. You think you're dead now. Wait till I melt you or whatever. But I had access to a lot of fireworks and then the BB guns. And then here was the real thing that pissed my old man off is like all the broken windows. It's like me and my brother Jeff didn't think to take that activity outside. We did it right inside, and we didn't know what he was there to tell us.
You're shooting off your BB gun inside?
Yeah.
Because nobody told them they shouldn't do that.
Well, here's the thing: is my dad stopped trying to really. He didn't even know about it till somebody mentioned it. You know why? Because my dad was in a wheelchair and he didn't get in. Yeah, fuck yeah, the jail. Oh fuck yeah, that was always where I would smoke some poor son of a bitch that was just fucking stuck in there.
Minding his own business. Having a drink on the corner.
Yeah, that would be one at close range because you go, fucking officer, you better look the other way. Mine was all fucking smoky and shit because I used fireworks on a lot of this shit. I got rid of all them Fisher Price. Fucking those people were not realistic to, that's how James Inman's built, but most people are not built that way.
Yeah.
But I would use that shit because those were the ultimate little fucking shooting ranges. But yeah, my old man didn't care for all the broken windows. It didn't affect him. So, he never really did anything about it, but he wasn't happy to hear about it.
I like that after that, first of all, you're shooting the BB guns off inside because no one told you not to. But then even after the first window broke neither you nor your brother went, you know what? Maybe.
Well, I didn't know any better. Like my brother Jeff is
Yeah,
kind
Is
of.
that one of those
broken
consequences you've heard of?
I shouldn't even say his name, but that brother of mine that I followed into battle, he wasn't a good one. He wasn't somebody you should follow on anything. He grifted me in all our dealings, and he doesn't, and to this day doesn't show a lot of common sense. Like we took my brother's John, he had all these books from the library, and me and Jeff cut out all. Oh, I gave his name up, but we cut out all the pictures from these books.
You randomly always give out the full, sometimes even middle name of just random people from your town, but yet you think for a second no one's going to be able to figure out who the mysterious person is who is one person older than you in the family.
I keep it blocked on Facebook, so I'm hopeful. But he, it's like I did all the like I wouldn't like he was the one we took the Playboy magazines out, and I was like, I don't want Jim Brown, you take him or whatever. I'm like, all right, come on over here, Big Jack, I got you. But everything I did like shitty, like it was like he was the one who like set up the activity, and it would always backfire on me. I never suggested, hey, let's box with mittens on, and but I'd get punched in the face, and it was always like, oh, well, fucking those NFL mittens from Sears or whatever, we get those, and then the Fisher Price. I remember one time Blair Ross was supervising this, and he couldn't believe the savagery of our just a brother boxing match, and he'd ring the bell, and it was like fucking Rocky, I'd get my brother would start punching me in the face, and then it was like, oh, it was on, man, and I was ready to go, and I only really had flurries. That was my whole boxing thing. I would like take punishment, cry, and then come out with a flurry.
That was spastic.
But if
that's kind of how you do your stand-up sets, too.
Right? Yeah.
And then you leave the room running.
Right. If you can just connect with a flurry, it's a great show. But a lot of times people go, "What the fuck was that?" It was a flurry.
The opening beatdown you have to take in order to get to the flurry is the part that a lot of audiences don't understand. Very confused by.
Well, it's like when they say there might be a flurry of snow. It could be some light flakes that everybody enjoys, or you might end up sideways on a bridge dead. I was like, I didn't. It's just a flurry. Well, kind of turned into a blizzard.
Oh shit!
But,
I like the idea of your dad like figuring out what's going on. Like, why are all these windows broken? Like, who's shooting at us? And then as he starts to try to discover it, he's like, wait a minute, the glass is on the outside. It's like that's how they always figure it out on Dateline. Like. Oh, this obviously.
We lived in a fucking creepy, Victorian house on the river. One of the first homes built in Coquille, and then it just fell into disrepair through definitely through the Andrus era. As my dad, if my dad didn't end up in a wheelchair, he would have. He probably he was handy enough that it wouldn't have gone that way. But it just fell to shit. And then I know at some point Larry had cable. He chipped out 2 windows to bring cable up to his room. Like he chipped it out, like he was on some shit, or whatever. But he had, it's like the building there was no foundation in the
window
house
was already broken. So I mean, it wasn't like that. It was something had to.
And that's how the bats got in. And
your mic keeps cutting in and out, Shaylee.
Find it. Oh,
sorry.
I know, like the house was probably a fucking should be a character in the Andrus fucking history, because the house was kind of fucking weird and creepy, and most of the people who came and went, had some weird, situation with the house or with us.
Well, I got a question for you. Was it an orderly house inside, or is it like something we'd see on Hoarders? Because you're a hoarder on shooting windows out.
Yeah, no, I mean, eventually, because like clutter. I know one time a paramedic suggested we clear this room where the laundry room
when you're in a situation where a paramedic is making suggestions on where things go in your house, not a good day.
Basically, for a while there, my dad it was like a pizza service. Like, my dad it was like call a pizza for takeout. It would like, no, come pick my dad up and then take him to the hospital. And he was having all these health, issues and shit. Well, the paramedic suggested that we really do something. We can't get a stretcher through here. Oh, right. Shit! What a fucking elitist, Like, fuck that guy. That's not my business. Can't you? I was like, I was a kid, but I was like, can't we knock the fucking railing off the deck and take him out that way? Damn it, man! Why we got to clean up that fucking room? I don't even know what it was like. You come in there through that was one of the entryways, and I don't even think it was a code room or whatever, but it was like a laundry room that fixed onto the front door or back door, as it were. It was like there was this big old house. It was one of the original homes built by probably somebody who really knew what the fuck he was doing, and then somebody built this garage and this other shit, and then my brothers took over from there. But it was like, we were like what's that? The Winchester house without carpentry skills. That was our house. Like, if you
that went up to nothing.
Yeah, if you hired tweakers instead of carpenters is what happened there. And then eventually when we sold the house and some people bought it and fixed it, it was like, oh, motherfuckers, Yeah. No, I mean, it's a little better than that, And it's now I could go. It's an Airbnb, so I could go stay in my old room. But there's
wait a minute. How many rooms in it? Bedrooms for Airbnb. Because we could go there and all of us could get a different room at the Andrews house and do like a Scooby-Doo haunted fucking stay the night fucking adventure.
No way, Andy.
No way. No way. I've seen Andy fucking freak out over shit on acid. And I think if we went there, it would be like being on acid. He would freak out, man.
I traveled for most of my bad experiences. Most of my memories there were like, having good times, throwing, bombs down at truckers and shit like that. I think John would have a different recollection of that house, and I did overhear a lot of horrible shit. And some of it was directed at me, a lot of rumors, but you could hear everybody talking through the vents. So it was like, the rumor mill, my dad was like, I never said that. And I was like, yeah, no, you did. I heard it. Your quote.
Oh my God.
I know one time I came home from college, I was just like homesick. And then I went up and I heard my dad say, I don't know what he's doing home. He's probably going to ask for money. And then I heard that through the vent. I was like, fuck. Now where am I going to get money? Fucking, guess I'm going to have to steal it. I never had to think that hard because Grandma was still alive at that point. I'd go see Grandma, and I only had to ask Grandma once, and she'd go, "How much you need?" and she'd write me a check or whatever. But then she was a bit of a blabbermouth, so it was always a price. She goes, I'll give you this money. It doesn't, I got it. I can help you out or whatever. I'm good. She was never like, I'll keep it to myself though. Like, blah, 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 blah. So then I would ask for money back home, once, Dad was like, hey, I'll go help him with something. Can I dump your urine bag or something?
I'll dump your bag for $20.
Only if there was a reward, a cash reward, and you never helped out your dad just to help him.
No, I did all the,
You did lots, dude, because we heard the stories of every changing him in the car and having to get him out of the car and doing all that shit, dude.
I never wanted to, and then it's like, and I know, like looking back, my mom got a lot of criticism. And for it's like you don't want to do that. It's like I don't want to be a healthcare giver, and unless you're kind of into it or whatever, it's like a weird kink. It's like I'm not cleaning my dad. I didn't want to wipe my dad's ass. I had to do that. I had to, and then and then it's like one time I'm inattentive and his foot drops, and then it's like 6 months later it's amputated. You're like, God damn it, it's like, I didn't even want to do this. I was hungover. I told him, and then Mom started backing up the wheel. There's like miscommunication. And, when it's like big paralyzed feet and he was a diabetic and it clunked down. And it's like, I'm what do you do? He's like,
his foot
shit,
fell off
man.
in front of you.
Yeah, you try. We didn't have a van, so we
Yeah.
tried to drag him out of cars, and then you'd have to scrunch down and then catch those big dead feet, and then put them on foot pedals. And one time I just fucking one hooked, and then just went down and hit the fucking gravel, and it was like, God, and it was like you keep quiet about it's like my dad didn't go ouch. So it's like, I was like, hey, and I didn't even realize this, it was like, it was like,
Dude,
well,
that's a tough spot. That's a tough spot.
So
I
I basically ruined any chance my dad had of ever playing professional soccer. Even if they would have, given him feeling and he could have walked again, he would have been on one leg. But then the other one, that kind of made me feel better later that the other one rotted and fell off because, like, see, it can happen.
You never dropped that one.
But then they just, it was like, but that's a tough spot, and it was like, it was, it was like you look at it as a kid, and it's like fucking hellacious guilt and shit. But it's like now I'm like, why didn't them fucking veterans give the old man a van? He said he killed people or whatever. He was a veteran, and we had to.
I don't think they gauge your benefits based on how many people you killed.
Kills or notches in your
no, but he was a true.
Did he kill enough to get a van? Yeah, fine.
You just mean he killed enough to get over the bar of I'd get a van.
I think my dad.
He's just a troop level.
From what I understand, is the only real action my dad saw is he befriended some headhunters in the Marshall Islands, and they gave him stuff. So I don't think he really saw, but he was in the military, and he was like, once he took a turn, and he got rehabilitated in the veterans hospitals, but they never really, it was always a fucking hassle or a fucking, if my dad hadn't gotten a wheelchair, I'd have never met the guy who molested me. It was like, the whole thing was a fucking.
Yeah, it seems like the whole veterans experience for your dad turned out to not be great.
Yeah, no, and I remember, the whole going over to the VA hospital in Roseburg, Oregon, and seeing the people who were shell shocked and shit, and it's like, singing the national anthem out on a golf course to nobody, and I was the only one that would applaud. So it's like, whoa. And then orderlies would grab them and take them back inside.
Wait, there were like PTSD soldiers singing the national anthem randomly outside the building.
I saw it on more than one occasion, and I wasn't even, I was like, I was like, I had no experience because I had Big Jim instead of GI Joe. It was like, wow, I think I made the right choice. GI Joe seems to have lost some of his marbles.
GI Joe is not just a cute outfit.
And his songs aren't as catchy.
I wonder. The Big Jim line. I think it probably got pressured out of existence. But I wish it hadn't, because I would have liked to seen where it went. It's like, I know that would have got thinned out by AIDS.
Yeah, AIDS and cocaine overdoses at the discos.
Yeah. Yeah, what's that big one they had in New York? That big
Studio
club?
54. Yeah, Big Jim the Big Jim band was headed to Studio 54 at some point.
Big Jim managed that for a while. I think he was the manager.
Yeah,
There's
he died.
Pictures of Big Jim and Elton John in the 70s.
His funeral expenses were paid by Andy Warhol.
The Big Jim band was on the way to Studio 54 in the camper van when it tragically caught fire, allegedly from somebody freebasing near the foam fucking fake fur couch in the back.
Yeah, that's probably why I got rid of Big Jack. I was like, that motherfucker's bringing drugs in here. OJ ratted him out.
They all turned on him the first time they got pulled over. They just blamed it on the black guy, and he was out of the group.
Yeah,
Big Jack was the black guy, by the way.
Yeah,
Big Jack. I was like, what's the black guy's? Because I don't remember. I had him. But yeah, I remember. I still remember what he was wearing, and I was like, shit, he's gonna catch a cold. It's terrible. I threw him out in his. Or it's just the shorts he came with. The shorts they're always wearing. And then sometimes, if you're lucky, they come with one additional outfit. But a lot of, they would be like Barbies where you just pick it out. Like cowboy, sure, I like them chaps. And I get the football uniform. I'm getting rid of the helmet, but them shoulder pads I'm taking camping.
Big Jim was such a good guy. He'd give you the vest right off his back.
But here's how fucked up it was. Is like, that was General Custer at the back of the van. Like General Custer, he's like the last guy the Big Jims would want hanging out with him. There's an Indian in the Big Jim group. Custer doesn't fit in.
It's a little bit like the Hateful Eight,
Yeah.
But these guys all love each other.
Yeah. They show
They're
up
all
and
forced to be there.
General Custer's in the back of the van, all old and crotchety and mumbling to himself under his breath about fucking asshole Indians.
Yeah.
Big Jim's Indian friend, and that's what it says on the box, is Big Jim's Indian friend was Chief Tankua.
Really? Yeah, Chief. Yeah. I was like, as an adult now, I was like, God damn it, I want to get all them guys and, like in the box and all of them again. Start that van.
Well, maybe you should have
van.
people send it to you.
Yeah.
I'd rather have cocaine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you want drug money or you want fucking Big
Quite
Jim?
honestly, I'd rather
It'd
have.
be great. Somebody sends Andy the whole camper van, like $3,000 worth of retro toys, and Andy gets it, just immediately starts taking it all apart, looking for the pills and cocaine that clearly have to be.
There's gotta be some coke in here.
Here's what happened though.
Why would someone
kind of
send this
in a way, but I didn't get good value on my Big Jims or whatever. But I remember the garage sales that I sold it was when I first started smoking pot, and I was getting pills from grandma's and just mix and matching because I was like kind of a depressed kid from my California trips didn't sit well, and grandma had things that made me sleepy, and I liked being sleepy. And cough meds, like my grandma's had, sure she's a little incontinent, but she had an easygoing manner about her, and I attribute a lot of that to her fighting alcohol with cough syrup. She wasn't an alcoholic, and she'd let everybody know it, and then she would drink a lot of cough syrup because she used to smoke 5 years earlier or 10 years ago, but she still rode that cough syrup out, the Vicks and all that. And of course there was a little bit of booze in there, and she went through the bottles a lot, but she never went back to wine as far as anybody could see. Maybe she mixed it. Maybe she got wine. I would always go to the store with grandma and help her. And I remember back in the day when she would pull out, and we get Night Train was one of her favorite wines. And she had money because she would buy other frivolous shit, but she would buy the shittiest gut wrenching wine you could get. T-Bird, isn't that fucking right above Mad Dog? Yeah,
Mad Dog 2020.
It's the older version of Mad Dog, I think. Before Mad Dog, there was
just fucking garbage wine.
It was the Big Jim of the cheap wine community.
Well, there was a time in life where I had to set down Big Jim and go stay
have
with
a talk
grandma.
with him.
And then it's but it's now I know that was my grandpa. Bill, who was the musician and played, he was the one probably closest to me in lifestyle. He was a weird fuck and had,
He's the one who was was it like a trumpet player or clarinet player in the circus and committed suicide. Right?
He called his own. Yeah. Well, he left his car running.
Called his own shot.
I think so. He left his car running. But unfortunately, when you do that, that was basically grandma's, and then she would get squirt cheese and Lorna Doone cookies and crackers, and then the cat food. She'd always go top shelf cat food. She'd drink a little, she sacrificed for them cats, I guess, because she drank that, and then they had them fancy cat food. She'd always get the good shit, and she had a wiener dog she'd cook liver for. But she drank that shit, So I guess she liked it. But her husband back in the day, I'll bet hanging out with Bill Andrist and Andrus back in the day before all the, well, they divorced at some point, but I'll bet that was a fucking fun couple.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. He's out there fucking playing the trumpet in the circus and fucking partying.
And I'm sure it was like one of them things that, the divorce didn't set well with Grandma May. And so when I met her, she was compensating for a lot of years of like,
was he gone already? Did you ever meet your grandpa?
No, he died in 1950. And my dad,
shit.
I think my dad's arc was my dad was somewhere around the line of just getting out of high school and getting ready to go to college. And then his dad killed himself, and then his mom turned into a raging drunk. And so when I met my grandma, she was a much older woman. She had a new husband. They came from Death Valley. They lived in Death Valley. Wanted to be around kid,
they
the
survived Death Valley.
Yeah. I mean, and she called herself a desert rat, so I assume she was out of her mind and her drunken new husband. So I was like,
they lived in Darwin.
Yeah, leaving Las Vegas lifestyle
in the 50s.
Yeah.
Well,
40s, 50s.
So when she came into my life, she was compensating for ruining my dad's life, and he was a sad dude because he instead of going to college, or I think he just graduated college.
She didn't support him. Like your grandpa committed suicide. Your dad was a teenager. And instead of your mother, supporting him and the family coming together and grow, trying to survive it together, everybody splintered off and dealt with it terribly.
Well, and he was an only child, so it was like all on him. And then, and then it was like my grandma May, and I met her, when I met her years later, and then she was, I was her favorite because, quite honestly, if you look at me and my brothers, like, I was like, I was Michael Jordan, and there was no Scottie Pippen.
I was gonna say you won the contest, but it was an open mic.
But also probably the age I was, and I would drive her around, and she would buy. I would go shopping with her, and I'd look the other way because I didn't really I wasn't judgmental about people who drank back then either. And it was like, well, nobody told me specifically, but she would always go, oh, I get this, or whatever. And she'd throw that. And then I'd throw in pornography eventually, or, Spider-Man comic books at the beginning and stuff and candy and shit. But as I got older or whatever, I would get, throw in some porn. And my grandma would always like, she's a loudmouth. So like when they're bagging it up, she goes, oh, I get my grandboy. He's my favorite. I get him whatever he wants here. And they're like fucking bagging up beer and fucking pornography.
Wait, your grandma is saying to the clerk, get him whatever he wants. It's on me. He's my favorite grandchild. And then you grab
bagging, as they're bagging it up, she'd say, I'll get him whatever. But I would always just like social distance back then. I was like, take a few, because she was a loudmouth. I was like, I don't want to hear her telling him. I was like, yeah, I'm getting,
I think she's kind of like salting the mind by like going, like chit-chatting and then saying, I buy him whatever, so that when they run across the beer and the porn, they just go, oh, well, she already said. So it wasn't, hey, are you buying this porn for your grandson?
Well,
I'm gonna start describing this podcast as like a Jerry Springer behind the music.
It really is. Yeah.
But yeah,
there's so many layers.
Oh
man!
Like,
it's like that. But that wasn't her. It wasn't me or my grandma. I'd come back from California, and I needed. It's like I could look at porn there, and I still like looking at porn. I liked actually. I enjoyed looking at porn without a coat.
You're like an eighth grader.
Yeah, 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade.
Yeah.
Well, and I started driving in 9th grade, and that's when I would I'd take grandma to the store. Actually, I started driving when I was 15. So whatever grade I was in then, I'd started driving because
that's 9th grade.
Yeah, we had 2 cars at the time, and my parents would take off, and then I would just drive around because Coke heel, who gives a fuck? And then I would race the station wagon. That's the lame part. Is like me and I like driving fast or whatever, but that me and Tim Counts would go out to there was a road called the Dike, and it wasn't anything sexual. It wasn't a chick in army boots at all. It was just a straight stretch of road, an actual dike. and we would race these two cars. And at 15, I was racing my family LTD wagon or whatever it was. And of course I'm going to lose, It's not what Tim Counts was driving, but it wasn't a fucking family station wagon.
I think in this case, Tim Counts looked at you as the griftee.
Yeah, we never bet on it. And, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you weren't racing for pink slips?
No, fuck no. I wouldn't have done that because but I just like, I like driving fast and hoping for the best, like not winning,
like
not
life.
winning.
Like
yeah,
life.
You always got to know when to end the show, Andy. That's perfect.
Yeah. Hey.
Plus, we all need to make a drink, right? Chad finished his like 5 minutes ago. Probably made a new one.
I already made
just
another one
decided
right
to
now,
make
but
it.
I got a load of ball.
All right, that's it. Then we'll come back on Patreon for After Hour Andy.
Ever gonna
if you guys want to be there, join us. Sign up for our Patreon, subscribe, and then we'll hang out for another little while over there.
I don't think this is going to get less fun.
Did
I say it right, Erickson, or is it fewer fun?
No, it's not fewer fun. It's not. It's not countable. So
it's not
fun
tangible.
Fun is not. Yeah, fun is not a countable thing. You nailed it, bro. But I did. It's my first thought. Like, oh, is it? Did he get it? Yeah, he did.
That's why I mentioned it.
You're learning, brother. You're learning.
I've always been pretty good at it. You've caught me slipping a couple times.
Yeah, but I just do it to make people mad. That's just that's my easy troll. And my favorite thing. My favorite thing is to correct people wrongly. Like if they say less, but they should say less. I always say fewer. And it's like, and then they get mad, and they're like explaining it back to me. It's like there was a good troll going around Twitter for a while where somebody on Twitter, and I'm not a gamer, but I still could get the gist of the joke, claiming that Zelda was the prince, the name of the prince in The Legends of Zelda.
The Legend of Zelda, the game.
Yeah, and then people would lose their fucking minds explaining them that Zelda was the name of the person that the prince was trying to save or some shit like that. Right, and then this person just like refused to acknowledge that was, they just stayed with, no, it's not. And then just make people so fucking, it's funny. If you're an asshole, I guess.
No, you stupid rabbit.
Yeah, maybe that's Shaylee, that's probably exactly it. It's a Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny was he was trolling Elmer Fudd the whole fucking time.
Troll, man.
I immediately think of Brendan Walsh too. Same thing.
Absolutely.
It's the same fucking thing. All the time.
He's a million times better at it.
That's man.
He's thank you everybody. Like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep going on Patreon, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Bye.
I'm trying to send you guys my gayest picture in the scout outfit.
We have that picture. We put it up.
The one where I'm standing askew?
Yeah.
Really? The pole leaning one? Okay.
Yeah, it should be on the Patreon from last week.
That one? No.
Yeah.
That one went out.
Yeah.
Really?
That
one.
Yeah. Okay. Because I don't think I was in the scouts then. Jesus Christ, man.
Wait. Well, that's
I have camel toe, and I'm a kid with.
It's probably Janice Utley or whatever her name was. Probably sewed you a fucking tight little Boy Scout uniform for you to sashay around in with your big Jims.
Jesus Christ.
I think that's a Weebelo outfit, I believe.
No, that's a Cub.
You're a Cub.
Weebelo.
Yeah. I don't remember learning anything.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I think you learned a lot.
Yeah.
You didn't sign up for the course, but you certainly got a diploma. Or GED.
Okay. You've seen that? I just sent it to you, Erickson, but there it goes. I didn't know I sent that one. But yeah, that one's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like, drop the camera and do some fucking parenting, Oh, bro, it's like, it's not like they could take the picture, it's like you're standing like, come on, man, what do you want from the model? These are going to go to,
Yeah.
These are going to be developed by somebody and then sent back to us. You can't correct it on the spot, right. But as a parent, I would see that. I would go, whoa, man. You're going to get the wrong attention.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to take this shoot a different direction here.
I mean, when it comes to parenting skills, I think the results from photography are way low on the totem pole from like bad parenting decisions. Handing you to a man, actually flying you to see a man for the weekend in your formative teenage years seems higher on the list than kind of having a limp wrist Weebelo outfit.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
The only people that were more complicit were the ones in that fucking documentary where both the parents also fucked the pedophile. You're short of that. Other than that, they're pretty fucking complicit, I think.
Yeah. 70s were a wild time, man.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I was going from, dressing my dolls up in Eunice Huntley outfits to, being in the fast lane.
Okay. All right. Now I have a note written down. So you said fast lane. I'm going to fucking try to squeeze it in here because earlier you were in the middle of a story and I couldn't interrupt it, but I wrote it down real quick because I think you alluded to the fact that you may have been hit by a semi at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And if so, I would really like to hear that story.
Well, that was like in '98. This is like one of my early comedy gigs, and it was like a triple gig or something. And I remember it was in Klamath Falls, and I did some coke, and then this one chick, she had a boyfriend, but she was like, let's pick up a chick. She was like, me and her. I was like, I hadn't been doing comedy very long, but it seemed like, worth pursuing.
Paying off.
and coke. And I'm with these folks, and I was worked with the legendary comic Tree. He looks like a Hills Have Eyes guy, but I worked with Tree, and then I'm partying after with these folks, and I remember hanging out and everything was cool. It was but they had a bunch of books stacked like fucking really tall, like a bunch of them, and then I don't know, it got knocked over, and then I got sent packing, sent out of there.
I don't know. It got knocked over.
I mean, at some point, there's not going to be any more partying. So I laughed, and then I was like, but I remember being really hungover, and the next day, and I opened the door, and it was like, oh fuck, it was an El Nino fucking blizzard happened, and I was like, god damn it, and so I was like, I was like feeble. I was feeble drunk and driving a Honda Accord, and I couldn't get. At some point, it was like necessary to chain up, and I couldn't. I was like, there's nobody to. I was like being a Karen on the side of the road, going, ah! There's nobody to hear me, like I can't do this shit. I says, and I'm fucking done. So I threw the chains in the car, and I like fucking no, I'm not. I can't do it. My knuckle, So then I started driving, and then I was like sliding, and then I was like, oh fucking, there's a semi truck coming down the hill, and I only had time just to brace up for it, and I hit it right in the fucking square in the middle of it. It's like if I were trying to kill myself, that's exactly the path I would have taken. Only this was just God trying to put me in a wheelchair too. Like it went right in the front of it, and it's fucking. I remember the collision being like just like I couldn't even for a long time. I would it made me nervous driving. I would turn into flinch myself or squint. But
wait. So what happened? You hit
I hit it head on.
You hit a semi head on in a blizzard.
It would have.
Why aren't you dead?
I think the science of it is because it was so icy instead of getting trapped under the vehicle, like it was just like a big blocking sled or whatever, so like tobogganed into
So
them,
like
and then
this,
yeah, it just glided
pushed
off.
you off like a cow catcher on a train
yeah,
pushes
and
off
then
a
Like
livestock.
the caroms when you hit a check, like when the caroms hit and it just ricocheted off.
Yeah, any
'Cause you
other
had no
weather
resistance under
conditions,
your
I would have
tires.
been dead, but I just slid, and then I did a complete spin around, and then I clipped just missed the cab, and I almost went underneath, or I caught the tail end of the cab.
Jesus.
Otherwise, I would have been, at that point, I was still stiffed up. I would have been cut in half. There's no way I would have, reacted and ducked like a Steven Seagal or some shit.
You're not going to duck down and then come out of it like Smokey and the Bandit, like where they go under this trailer and then they pop back up.
You're just frozen, waiting to be decapitated.
Yeah. And I would have been decapitated from that, and then I went over in another lane, and it was just me and this guy on a frozen highway, and then he starts yelling at me. I remember that. He's like, "Hey, you fucking motherfucker, this is a new truck." He's like cursing at me, and it's like, like, how do you even know my religious affiliation at this point? but he's yelling at me for fucking crush, it's like, this is a brand new truck. And I go, and then I remember I got out the passenger door because I couldn't get out of the driver's side. And then eventually when I got out there, and how you think of the right thing to say when you have enough time? It took me a while. I was like trying to get out and go, "You fuck you," or whatever. And then I was like,
that's what you thought.
That's what you said. I mean, oh shit. I should have said, "Oh fuck you."
No, well, by the time I got out, I said, "I wasn't aiming at you, you fucking cunt." And that's exactly what I wanted to say. But I wasn't emotional because I was like, my door ain't opening, so I'm like, got out the other side, and then I yelled at him, and then he calmed down a little bit, and I go, because I wasn't aiming at I was like, specifically, I'm trying to ruin his truck.
His biggest complaint probably was, "Hey, shouldn't you have put chains on your tires?"
That's one of them.
Yeah. Well, and
I mean, because that's what it comes back to, is you not being able to get your chains on and then saying to yourself, what's the worst that could happen? I'm just going to go on anyway. No problem.
Crossbow's safe.
You guys are explaining an angle to this that Andy has never once considered. I just watched it on his face. It's the same whenever I explained to him that when he crossed the street in Las Vegas against the light, that other people followed him, and he was kind of responsible for fucking, these dumb homeless people getting run over because they're following
the highest number of pedestrian crosswalk kills.
It was the same look on his face, like, wait, I was negligent for not putting on chains?
He didn't realize he was almost killed by me knocking over a stack of books.
Right.
I was like, that set of chains. Like, I would have been parking.
Just say that.
A few hours later.
I don't know what happened, but they got knocked over.
Yeah.
Doesn't this go all the way back to Lyndon B. Johnson established
the war on poverty?
Yeah, it sent me to do that gig.
The war on sobriety.
It's the butterfly effect all the way from the Kennedy assassination to Andy almost being beheaded by a truck on a snowy road.
Here's the thing: is you should practice putting them chains on your car when you're not hungover in a blizzard.
That doesn't seem easy to me. I've never done that. It can't be easy to put chains on a car by yourself.
No, and I didn't I tipped over cars. I wasn't set for. I'm no Henry Phillips when it comes to roadside safety.
Wait a minute. Let me also say you did have a full summer of experience actually changing inner tubes on semi tires and shit. You should have at least had some sort of even just like basic cursory knowledge of how to put chains on, right?
That's the thing. It's like when you see bar rescue. It's like, how come a bar opens and has servers that haven't been trained? It's like, why would a tire place not it's like they assume it's like they assume I played with G.I. Joe when I played with Big Jim. I'm not here to do rugged man stuff. I'm here to
I might be thinking the fucking this what do they call that, the Mandela effect, Mandela effect or something. I don't even know if there was a Big Jim until Andy started talking about it. It only existed in Andy's universe until he started telling all of us, because we asked Stanhope and he said he had never heard of Big Jim. I don't know a lot of people to ask, but I don't
probably was the, I mean, like, I'm kind of curious to dig into the history of Big Jim, because they seem to not really have, they were underground and they didn't really, they didn't want to put a disco ball up and say, Jim and Jack are hanging out, there ain't no chicks coming. I think they kind of. I think what would have broke up the band is when they went heavy S&M with them guys who were supposed to be a rescue team, and they were just there to fist and karate chop some dick.
They swing into the party on grappling hooks and just drop disconnected. A rappel line and
so up until that point,
breakaway suit, the breakaway jumper, and he's got just the cowboy boots, the cutoffs, and the vest.
Yeah, because I was a reasonable, peaceful kid, but then they come out with rescue situations, and then I'm throwing them out windows. Up until that point, trying to see how many dudes we could get in one sleeping bag.
A part of me would love to see Andy get in the mail Big Jim fucking eBay fucking classic figures, but a part of me also knows that Andy would still probably dress him in tracksuits and shoot him with crossbows. So it's
Andy, that camper was $1,299 on eBay. You just blew it up with a fucking Indian reservation smoke bomb?
It was one of 3 remaining Big Jim campers that exist in the Northern Hemisphere.
They're still unsafe at any speed.
It was a Honus Wagner card for homosexuals. Like, oh my God, I've never been able to recapture Big Jim.
The fact that they were only available through green stamps, I think fucking signifies a big part of why none of us have ever heard of it.
Well, and that's what probably, Lyndon Johnson probably goes, what are we giving all these poor kids non-war toys for? We're never going to win.
Maybe that's it. Maybe Big Jim and his buddies washed out of basic training at G.I. Joe's Army.
Well, I'll tell you what,
the government had to figure out what to do with them because they didn't make it. So they're like, they gave him a van, one of the old Jeeps. And
I know if G.I. Joe could talk to Big Jim, he'd say, I shit bigger than you, boy. Because they're way shorter. They're like little muscle. They're like little muscle. Like you go to any workout club, it's the same thing. Little short dudes who are compensating by putting on big biceps, and they think that'll make them taller or something. It's like these dudes who want gyms opened up right now. It's like, I'll bet they're all fucking under 6 foot. And I think probably G.I. Joe is probably 6'4".
He did come across as a tall, big dude.
Yeah. No, I mean, whenever I had, like I said, I had General Custer and those dudes were taller, but they didn't really mix. They're like, you couldn't undress them. You could put
which diminished their value immediately.
It seems like it was a smart move by a toy manufacturer.
Yeah, totally.
No, it's simple. You can only sell them they got the vest, they got the hat, in which I still, that was one of the things I had as an adult was like a General Custer hat, and then I'd put it on my penis back in the day, and it was fun. It was fun to do that. But as a side note,
Did you reenact the Battle of Little Bighorn with you?
Trying to launch the hat off.
Little Big Horny here. Hey,
I think you should maybe read up on what happened to General Custer before you fucking put his hat on your dick and send him into battle.
Maybe you bring more bullets.
It was my way of saying I don't care if you're having a period. General Custer's ready to go to battle.
It's going to be a bloodbath either way.
But here's the problem with those guys is all you could do is dress them up for war or put a hat on them or whatever, and they were all tied. They were dressed. They had their outfits on.
Right.
Even in GI Joe, you could strip down and get to know him a little bit or whatever, you know. But that's all there was with Jim and those guys. They didn't have weapons. It's just like a bunch of outfits and let's go party.
Look at right
you know?
there. Suit him up for action.
Yeah.
I love this topic so much, you guys. We could fucking change the name of this podcast to Andy and the Big Jim fucking podcast. We can talk about it every day. I'm fascinated with this.
You know?
Andy plus men.
That makes me wonder though. It's like in that, you know, there's photo album Andy plus men, and then you know, and then there's the photo album Andy off to go see Pat Spleen, and it's like, you know, it's like, hey Dad, you remember? He's like, you know,
wow.
Andy plus men was just 2 photo albums ago. Now I'm playing as an unattended child.
Draw some
unattended child.
Draw some lines, Dad. What the fuck?
Yeah. Set down the camera and do some parenting.
And I cut all these out, but I know there was.
As
I know,
they say.
like I went back when I started this project with Perfenza. I found a bunch of pictures and sent them to them, and we lost them somehow. Those lost, but I know there was a photo album like right after my first weird trip and I came back and it was the 4th of July and I'm doing a sparkler, but I can tell, you know, I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I see that picture and I go, God damn, it looks like I came back from combat, you know. I was like, I should go hang out with Grandpa.
You're not reading too much into it.
Yeah.
But you're not.
Right.
But
That's a healthy way to, I mean, you have to look at the picture.
You wouldn't want that guy at a Big Jim rave.
No, dude, that does not seem cool at all.
That guy can set up lighting and he better leave.
Who's that guy?
He's a
G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
That's a new
G.I.
one.
Joe had a black. G.I. Joe had a dark beard.
Well, there's a bunch of different G.I. Joe dudes.
Oh,
That's
the
G.I. Joe dog.
No, yeah. They're all combat vets, you know.
Yeah.
They all went to war. There's never peacetime Joe. They call peacetime Joe little Big Jim. And he ain't big he ain't big, you know. I mean, once I saw the size difference between him and Joe and Custer or whatever, it's like, well, shit, you know. I was like, I would have rather had a perfect little world with just little guys, little muscle guys, you know.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that all Big Jim and his buddies were trying to do were just cruising their camper around and just have hangouts with the bros, bro time. And fucking G.I. Joe and fucking Johnny West and all those asshole fucking authorities, fucking jackshooted thugs, fucking had to keep harshing their mellow all the time.
That was after the day the music died. Is when all those guys came out.
Because somewhere.
And the BJ brothers, those guys were all light party.
Put on some boots, put on some shorts, and let's flex. You know. Absolutely. What more is there? You know, I'm here to get some sun and drink some beers.
Get out of here, G.I. Joe. You're not allowed on the ketamine bus.
No shit.
I would love to see the zoom of all the gyms. But they were. The one thing they had in common was they had nothing to do. And they never once insulted our sensibilities, us loyalists, by introducing a chick. Not once, you know. Where's Big Jill? There ain't one, you know.
Sometimes we use Big Jack for that, but there's no Jill per se.
Everybody gets their turn, but there's not an official chick.
And if you put a Big Jim next to a Barbie, you know the only way they're getting laid is if they're millionaires or have a lot of cocaine. They just don't, you know. They're fucking short little fucks, you know. And those guys might be gay, but they're into fucking heavy choking and some fucking bullshit that the Big Jim guys would be like, you know, let's just not invite them anymore. They take it too far. They get too rough. I think the awning on the camper is damaged. They were doing pull-ups on the awning.
the meeting they're having after they left. Like, come on, Jack, we can't do this again. You can't invite those guys. Say
It's
this
the
every
same
time.
Every time, yeah. No, he won't do
I know.
this again.
Listen, I know it was cool and dangerous when it first started, but this isn't funny anymore.
This is why we came all the way out to the lake. Nobody knows we're out.
Did you hear what they said about that slope?
Oh, fuck, you guys, I love this. Oh, man. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, those guys have.
Pull-ups on the awning.
I kind of I brought him back in a different spirit when my daughter was young. Somebody gave us a bunch of G.I. Joe Barbie cast-offs, and it was a dude. What do you call those? Ken. It was Ken with big hair, and my daughter got like a bunch more Barbies. And so that guy would be the dude I was trying to educate my daughter about, because he would basically like, woo, I can do pull up.
You're playing, you're playing with your daughter. She's playing with her Barbies, and now you are trying to introduce your daughter Delaney to the Big Jim world as you introduce her to various Big Jim characters.
Well,
I get what you're saying. No.
That's great.
You got to show her the douchebag, the dude with being a douchebag.
Yeah. Oh, man.
She knows how to deal with him.
The Afro Jim's welcome, and then, I don't know, we'd probably let Ginger party a few times. But I would have like the Ken doll. He would be like drunk frat guy who would stand up on the van and go, "Woo, girls, check it out!" I'm like kind of like Mishka. If you had a Mishka doll, you'd be like, "Hey, girls, look, I'm broke. I'm starting a band."
The main G.I. Joe Ginger guy right there looks like a pre-evolution Dr. Zaius.
Yeah, he does.
That's the guy who turned into. Yeah, right.
I think those are probably a lot of like Planet of the Apes, I think influenced how they designed G.I. Joes, because right after Charlton Heston is the apes, and they come out. I also had some apes. Some Planet of the Apes guys. Those guys those were like AIDSy Big Jim.
You know that whoever put out and had the idea to do a Planet of the Apes series of 12-inch action figures, like it wasn't long after those hit the market that they said we shouldn't be doing this. We need to stop making these.
Those were my figures.
Yeah.
That was my Big Jim. Was the apes?
Really?
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So my theory is toy AIDS started
when one of the G.I. Joes.
No, I think Big Josh. I think Big Josh and an ape.
Listen, you do enough MDMA at one of the rescue rig raves, and pretty soon you're going to be partying with whoever's dancing with you. You know.
Yeah.
Well,
look at those guys.
That would also mean that the ape was a female, which means that Big Josh is a little more liberal in the Big Jim camp than the rest of them.
True.
He's willing to go with some females.
If I could say anything to those guys,
anybody ever did.
If I could say anything to little me, it would be baby oil. Put baby oil on them guys.
Andy's message to little me.
That's
I thought it would be like, don't get on
go
the
to California.
There's so many things. You want to go back and kill baby Hitler? No, I'm going to go back and tell myself baby oil.
Baby oil.
Yeah, you don't mix those with Big Jims, though. It's just, I guess it's the liberal thing. Maybe there's too much Molly, but you don't mix Jims with apes, man.
So AIDS started because Big Josh had sex with one of those dolls right there.
Well, it introduced the concept to somebody.
Well, You've described your big Jim playtime, but now you say you had these guys, but they didn't mix in. So what sort of fantasies did you play out with your ape dolls then? If it wasn't big Jim fantasies.
I don't know. Maybe they come in I don't remember them hanging, you know.
You had
Maybe
them,
they were, but I mean, like
they probably broke loose and took off.
Like you can imagine, I didn't hold on to a doll long. I mean, shit, you know. I mean, I think I've told you guys the Drowsy story.
The what?
The Drowsy
Was that a person?
Doll. No, it was my dolly. My mother. I think my mother wanted us all to be girls, and I don't blame her, because quite honestly, it would, you know, it couldn't have been any worse, you know. But we all turned out to be dudes, and I was the youngest, and I don't know if I asked for it. Maybe I had enough S&H stamps, and I walked by Big Jim's back in the day, but I chose a Drowsy doll. And I loved Drowsy doll. Maybe it was a gift or whatever, but I had Drowsy doll and I loved it. And my brothers ridiculed me. It's something I know about them. Before I was Andy Aikenhead, I was, you know, playing with Drowsy doll, and they teased me about it a lot. And we lived over the highway, like over a highway. It was like we live like it's a bank they've had to reinforce because we're that close to the highway. I'd throw down my fire bombs or whatever. But back when I was a kid, I was raising Drowsy as a single father.
That's tough. That's tough to do. In the
you know, no one gets the credit.
Listen, Jimmy Carter was president. He wasn't great. There was the oil embargo. It's a tough time to raise a kid as a single father.
Maybe it was S&H stamps. And I would take that baby around, and I loved that baby, and I bonded with it. It was like, you know, after, you know, it was what I didn't have, you know, I had brothers, but I didn't like those guys. They were all mean to me, but I loved Drowsy, and I would, you know, it was my first real thing that I had Drowsy, and yeah,
Holy
that's her.
Shit, Shaley, are you fucking kidding me?
And and I would drag her around Drowsy. I don't even.
Hold on, Andy. Wait, hold on a second.
She's beautiful, right? You guys see it? Look at her.
From Big
Look
Jim
how
to
sexy
this?
and beautiful. No,
She's sitting like a pear. Her head is upside down pear.
I went from Drowsy. I had to conform, right? I wanted to raise my baby and be left alone, but my 4 older brothers took sport in it, and I remember, you know, being frustrated and crying, and then I threw Drowsy, and you know, it's like, this is how, when I worry, I thought about this when I was becoming a parent. It's like, man, Drowsy didn't do well, but I had Drowsy, and it was my baby, and I threw her over and onto the highway, and I saw her. She didn't make it to the highway, but she made it to the thing, to the sidewalk. No, but I had remorse. I don't know if people who do this to their real babies ever have buyer's remorse or whatever, but I felt bad about it. Like, I was, oh fuck, I threw Drowsy down.
God.
And I went down. It was like it's not an easy embankment. It was real steep. And I climbed down. I used to, when I would shoot baskets out there, I would get mad, and then I would kick the ball, and I would have to chase it down the highway. But I had to climb down this embankment. It wasn't easy at any level in my life, especially when I was a wee little man in love with Drowsy. I was, you know, it's like, I didn't ask to raise her.
There's nothing wrong with showing.
Yeah. But look at her. She's got blue. You know, I wish her hairline was a little lower, but her beautiful blue eyes, and mine had a pouty mouth. And and I still remember those pink pajamas. You know,
they called that one Drugsy. Actually, this one's Drowsy. The pouty mouth one was Drugsy.
Basically, it looks like they came up with the idea for Drowsy because they accidentally only printed half the eyeballs on a whole batch of them, and they were like, well, instead of throwing them away, Drowsy.
They doubled their production.
And they were like, Johnson, you're a genius.
But that would have been like my favorite toy. My favorite toy, and then I basically Andy Aikenhead.
Oh, no. That's a couple of years later.
Yeah, I still for years, when somebody says I feel drowsy, I was like, you shouldn't, I was like kind of a trigger, man.
It's got a pull string down there, so it said things to you.
Well, I don't know that I don't remember mine ever talking to me. Mine might have been a previous thing, but I she would have said, "Don't throw me down there. What are you doing, Daddy? What are you doing? This isn't right." But I threw her down there because I was a little sissy. My brothers
From
call
what
me a
ages?
pussy.
That's a shame, dude.
From what
Well-
ages did you raise Drowsy? Not her age, your age.
I got rid of her when I was in my 20s. No, I think
once
that must
Delaney
have
was
been
born, there wasn't
right,
room for
right.
Whoa.
No,
stop it.
I wouldn't have
That's
been
just
comfortable with that. That's not Drowsy. That's not my Drowsy. You do a blood test. That's not my Drowsy. That was my precious little.
Eyes, Andy.
That was my precious little dolly I dragged around
Does
and loved.
have his
So
eyes.
I'll probably have, probably it'll be embarrassing when I do the research and find out they only put Drowsy out in 77 or some shit. Like, oh God, no. But
So you don't remember the earliest age you got this?
I remember, I don't remember getting Drowsy, but I remember loving her and wanting to be with her and then throwing her away because I was being tormented about her. Like,
Terrible.
that's a classic story. Like, oh, is that your chick? I don't like her. Get rid of your chick. She's really annoying or whatever.
I think that's toxic masculinity. That's exactly what that is. You should have been
Right.
encouraged to nurture and cherish and develop and have kindness and all of that. You were trying to exhibit and display, and your stupid asshole older brothers fucking beat it out of you. But you're still smart enough to this day to recognize. Yeah. But you still recognize that.
That's pretty fucking woke, Erickson, and I fucking agree with every goddamn bit of it. I 100% agree with all of that stuff. Because Andy, as weird and fucking rough around the edges as he is the sweetest motherfucker in the middle that you ever get to know. As long as you can get past the fucking rough parts.
As long as you don't follow him into the street in Las Vegas when he goes across without checking.
Just don't put on pink pajamas and count on me too much.
Well,
that doesn't end well.
The Mattel Drowsy doll was out in the 1960s, Andy, 1964.
Yeah. Well,
that doll today would be worth $65.
How much?
$65.
Ooh, wow, Big Jim's appreciated. I guess I did the right thing and got rid of that baby doll and went for Big Jim's after that. As I once I got rid of that baby and all the teeth, they stopped bothering me about that shit. But then they used to threaten to throw me. They did this thing where they'd throw throw me down the bank, and then I always thought I deserved this, because of Drowsy.
You needed a fucking sister, dude. You needed some older sisters.
That
was a brutal fucking.
Oh, I know.
Run.
Yeah. Well, my mom made an effort on Dave, but she couldn't turn him. And I think you try to turn a boy into a girl and he doesn't take, he's just going to be pissed.
Yeah.
And there's a picture where David looks like Charles Manson and I remember him as being this mean, like he was a drummer and bands and shit, and he had long hair, and I remember him not being very tolerant. But Larry was the scary one. Larry was the one who had one. I mean, one of my early bits was about hide and seek with a butcher knife, and it was a true story where my brothers were like, my family left. My mom and dad went somewhere, and Larry and David scared the shit out of me and Jeff, and they were I know Larry was brandishing a knife, probably to be hilarious or whatever. But me and Jeff thought we were going to get stabbed, and we hid out on this windowsill out there, and then we climbed down it eventually and ran when my folks got there. There was like the bit was about it playing hide and go seek with a butcher knife makes it more challenging for the kids, whatever. But it was there was like I had no comedy material, so I just talked about what happened a few years earlier. I go, oh, here was the big payoff is you definitely don't want to get in the clothes hamper because they can find you.
They come up to the clothes hamper and they don't even look inside. They just look at it, they take their butcher knife and they stab it in the middle, and Andy's inside like trying to move out of the way of each one of these.
Yeah.
Each one of the knives comes through.
The punchline nobody laughed at was suddenly I'm Houdini. And, but it was this whole thing about that, and it was like that was the second time I did comedy. I was like just talked about the knife incident with Larry playing hide and go seek with the butcher knife was the bit. But we had good, but Yeah, I don't think they got paid for it. I think they were more like, you guys watch the little kids while we go to the VA hospital because the vets got Andy too patriotic last time.
You ever wonder if maybe the fork in the head story, the origin story, has some significance? Maybe as a baby, one of your brothers fucking stabbed you in the head with a fork at some point and started this
I'd like
legend.
to know I'd like to know who came up with that, either Larry or David. But
it's a very random thing to think of without something sparking that. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Seems like the first time that story was told in public, the person who told it was looking at the person who actually did it, who then came to them afterwards and said, "Dude, I thought you were not telling anybody about that." And he's like,
"But that whole family came into be known to my family through the community action. The Mova Hills were the fucking nutty." Fucking incest family on the edge of town that people go, wow, I hear they have rats in there. They live.
You were the nutty family on the edge of town.
No, they made fun of another family.
Dude, I picture
Coquille, my family was solidly like lower middle. Or we only got real. I think our wheels came off when my dad got the tumor and became a cripple. It's like, and then he was like, and then his job became washing pants that overran the washing machine.
He got his fist at fucking a weight balance machine.
But that's when my mom started going to work and shit. And then he was in a wheelchair, and then it's like, we're all caregivers and my mom's trying to make enough money to support the family. And
the VA should have supplied a 24-hour caregiver to your dad for sure. That's what should happen.
Right. Kids aren't really meant to do that. And then
24 hours, but at least
every day. Every day.
At least daily. Yes.
Yeah. And that wasn't a thing. It was like we were all just, my mom would, go to work, and then it was like, oh, Dad's got to take a dump, and I would act like I couldn't hear it or whatever. But eventually, if you're the only set of ears, you hear it, Like, hey, Dad, what's going on? What's all this in here, Governor?
Man, if there's ever been a more perfect argument made for having a bidet, I can't imagine hearing what it is.
Oh yeah,
because it seems like that would have also made your life. He
had a shower chair, so we could have just like taken him outside, and then if we could.
Yeah, but it's already right there.
Would have taken a kid to get underneath him in the chair and blast him with a hose. It could have been done with a little.
Wait, is this where your balloon idea came from?
Probably.
Archery balloon?
Yeah.
Hit him with the balloon, like you and your brother Jeff are like, all right, we're gonna walk Dad's ass, but like, all right, go fill up the balloons.
Some of us have had the experience of having kids and changing their diapers. We're gonna launch
a balloon at his ass.
Yeah. As a parent, you feel bad when your kid gets diaper rash because you didn't clean them after they took a shit. But could you imagine having a parent? You're like, sorry, Dad, I didn't mean to cause the rash there. I guess I didn't see the shit under your scrotum.
Yeah. What, am I grounded?
Yeah. My dad had a word for that. It was like, check for blowback. And that meant that there was shit. There was possible shit under his scrotum. That's how there wasn't a manual, but that's how I interpreted it.
Wouldn't that be blow forward?
And whenever
I don't know.
Whenever I first took my daughter home from the hospital as a baby, the doctor, he was a very religious dude, and he was very against a man taking custody of the baby, and he hated me for no reason, even though I was the better choice to take care of the baby. And he was like admonishing me before. He's like, you wipe from front to back, always from front to back. I'm like, okay, I appreciate the advice. I didn't know, I did not know that. So good looking out. And then I go to change my first diaper, and there's blowback like to the belly button, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck wipe from front to back. What you should have told me is that you're going to be fucking cleaning fucking crevices with the corner of a baby wipe like you're detailing a fucking car stereo.
Chin to the nape of the neck.
I mean, my dad had the
back.
disadvantage of, that my dad had the disadvantage of sitting and shitting. But as an adult or as a person, when you've taken a dump and then later you find shit under your balls, that's a fucking that was an interesting meal you had. How did this happen?
Why do I still smell so much shit? Why am I still smelling that? I don't. It was
That's
an
what it
hour
was.
ago.
The call's coming from inside the underpants.
The call's coming from inside the house.
It defies gravity what happened there.
Oh no.
You expect him to have like some code where I got a fireball. Lets you know that it's fucking
Check for
burning.
blowback.
Blowback.
It's
He had some
burning
other.
down here. Oh.
Yeah, he had some. I think I'm blocking out some of the other terminology. But now I would say to my mom, it's like, it's like, let's change up the diet.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
something. Can
Maybe
we do
some
better
rub
here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need greens.
As a kid, I want something to grab onto.
I don't think that's the way to put it.
No, but it sure would have made it easier. It's like playing kid, and he would say, "Oh, you might have to be catcher." He tried, to make it fun, but it was like, and then catcher, like,
Trying to make it fun.
it's no fun.
Let's make it a game, son.
Well, yeah, there's no dignity here to be had. The old man's, I can't imagine, it's like my dad's dad laid out the groundwork. He killed himself at age 50, and my dad's life took a downturn at age 50. Maybe even before that, but when he started the wheelchair and when his legs are dead, it's like, it's like maybe your dad should have had a chat with you about, it's like, ask one of your kids. We had a carport. Maybe that was it. We didn't.
You've made it past 50, Andy, and you've broken the family cycle.
I was just going to say, Chad, look at Andy now. He's 50, and he a podcast with a Patreon.
Yeah.
He can put out his Venmo.
He's begging for weed money.
Begging for weed money. It's like my grandpa Bill. He's like saw a downturn, and he was like, "That's good." He's like, yeah. He's like, it's like. Man. I'm sure he's, somebody could have talked him out of it or said, "Hey, you got a lot to live for," or whatever. I would have told him, it's like, you're kind of putting a lot on your family. Why don't you take a road trip, bro? Make it look like an accident. That was a shitty part.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of feel like that was a dick move.
Part.
Yeah, because he kind of, it's like, if you hadn't been such a dick, then my dad would have been, my dad only, like, it was like difficult for him to say "I love you" to a kid, and it was like, it was like Fonzie on the. He couldn't say it. I was like, it was because
he contracted it out to people he met at the VA hospital.
I feel like wrapping my sad self in an Adidas sweatsuit for a good cry. Yeah. Kind of something there, man.
You tell Pat, you're like, or Steve or whatever he said his name was. You're like, my dad never told me he loved me, and he's like, yeah, I'm counting on it.
I think Steve had issues with Andy, so he kind of let me do all the talking. He'd let me tire myself out, and then he'd rub me down.
Oh no.
So Steve did the first podcast with Andy? That's what the whole thing.
Yeah, just say that's what we do here. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah. Well, we didn't vodcast. We did it on beta.
Problem.
It was all on beta, and it was, it was like his issue was like I wasn't getting to the pose or whatever. But I was like, if I would have, my thing was like, if I just hit the winning pose, then there's no fucking,
He definitely saw your pictures, though. Your baseball pictures and your Boy Scout pictures, Cub Scout pictures, and was like, "Yeah, I'll take this one." for sure.
Well,
at least in his own mind. At least in his own mind, he might not have said that. It might not have been that direct. But
I know when I went to go visit my dad, he had pictures of his family hanging up on the wall, and this guy was he was like coming back to the VA hospital for outpatient therapy, and he was friends with my dad. I was like, obviously he's a pedophile. My dad didn't have any friends, you know. It's like I can't name any friends, you know. My dad was a smart ass, and
He's not even
I know.
likable.
I know he was a troubled loner when he hit college from finding his old man dead. He married a woman with buck teeth and got him fixed.
Made him fix it. He had to fix him.
He taught school and didn't get along with other teachers or kids. He never had any friends that I knew of except for one dude at the VA hospital.
Oh my God.
I'm sure he didn't make friends in the military because he told me that one time they would play tricks on people and then they would put lotion in guys' shorts. And I didn't know what that meant for years, but it was like, oh, okay. So guys would wake up and think they had a wet dream.
Oh wait, they did it while they were wearing them?
Yeah, and he also liked putting fake shit.
Oh, they were
around.
like sleeping.
I was in the military. That's not a fucking prank I ever heard of.
No, that seems like a way to get into a guy's underpants.
It was the Navy.
Yeah.
Well,
I know my dad had no homosexual leanings as he was attracted to heavily made up country western star women. You know, your Tammy Wynette's and your Barbara Mandrells. He was totally, you know, and I know I was with my dad at a Barbara Mandrell concert and she was singing that song, "Show Me a Man Who's Got a Good Woman," and my dad reluctantly put his hand up. So how could that be anything other than straight as they make them?
Oh, God damn it. I love you guys. There's a reason Carrie Mitchell just came walking into the shot and walked around behind me and then walked off. And that was to say, I think this has gone on long enough.
She's worried I'm smoking her pot from afar.
Yeah.
I thought it was just getting good. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, that's also true.
Just let me know when we're close to done and I'll make an appeal for sending me some more gummy funds. This podcast is only as good as the drugs. I feel like gummies are the new big gyms, but I need them. They got a tomahawk chop. And
what's your Venmo?
Andy/Andrist. Oh, here's the thing I started to say about.
It isn't. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Eric should just put it in a link in the notes of the.
I have a website that is maintained by the weather girly. Brittany keeps my website up, and I could put that information there. But here's the thing on pay.
Don't involve your website in this. You can have people send you funds
Venmo.
Can fill your Jody area.
What did I say? It's Andrew/Andrist. Like, you know.
You said underscore, then you said dash, and now you said slash.
And then so I also will.
You still haven't gotten it right, but
I also will use a lot of the money for.
I'll put a link in.
You think Brazilian nuts are cheap? I keep my squirrels in Brazilian nuts. Sure, I put them in the bag and market for a cheaper thing, but I still.
Wait! You grab the high dollar Brazilian nuts. Put it in a bag and then write the code for like Spanish peanuts.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that bit Hedberg does about buying bread for a duck at Subway. I'm buying, sure, these Brazilian nuts are delicious and expensive, but I'm giving them to a squirrel. So why should I pay anything above peanut prices?
Right.
And they don't. And with this whole COVID thing, is nobody's looking in the bags, but. Here's the problem with my, what's the other one where people give you money? The other one.
PayPal.
It's Andrist Entertainment. And sometimes people get confused because it's like.
Andy, you know what you're doing? You're not only giving out the wrong fucking name or tag. Now you're giving out 6 of them. What are you doing?
It's like I'm a kid waiting for Valentine's, but I put my Valentine box on somebody else's desk. And they're like, man, this sucks.
Nobody loves me.
Any Valentine's here. I should kill myself. And they're like, wait, we got gummies over here. We put gummies for you. We put them in the other desk because you put your shit over there. Oh, it's all gone. I'm empty.
You're like a beggar on Fremont Street, but you put your hat in the other guy's circle.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm just trying to make some palm frond baskets.
It's about the love.
Get the fuck away, squirrel.
I will tell you.
Sorry, squirrel. I didn't put the information down correctly in Venmo and PayPal, so there's no nuts.
This is of a great value to me to hang out with you guys each week. That's no shit. And I hope it's of a value of people to watch it and be entertained by fucking Andy's stories, because I think it is of value. So thanks for fucking being a Patreon fucking subscriber, guys. So cheers to that. Fucking
the fact that we can do this because other people like it is fucking a great grift for us, because that means we get to keep doing it, because I fucking love it too.
Yeah, the big Jim might have died with AIDS, you know. But
you're not.
Why has Big Jim been forgotten?
You let him go back to Big Jim, Brett Erickson. Goddamn you! Stand down. I want to hear about Big Jim. I don't care if we sit here and drink for 3 more hours. We're gonna fucking talk about Big Jim.
Keep stalling. I've almost got Andy's Venmo.
Big Josh. See, the thing is Big Josh's vest didn't even button. He's just fucking, say, put a little hair on him, please. He's shiny. He's got boots. He's got cutoff shorts and a vest that won't button. Let's fucking party. God damn it. Let's go. Let's get in the van.
We need to do some research and see who was the company that made Big Jim, because I think
it was Mattel.
It
was Mattel.
Was it? Oh my!
Yeah, it was like a lesser line of Mattels, and they went with the big war hero and the big hot chick that could never really, keep a job or a career. But these dudes had nothing. There was never Big Jim, the log guy, or whatever. They implied they were just macho dudes that could fix whatever you needed fixed.
They could chop wood if you needed it done.
Yeah, they didn't have any real fucking marketable skills, and I think that's what kind of killed them.
So Andy,
they're ravers.
I know what's gonna. I'm trying to find your Venmo for you.
They should have put them out as pension fund babies. Well, big Jim pension funders, so you wouldn't worry about what they're not doing.
I look at them as more free spirits. You don't know what kind of fucking. They seem intelligent enough to have some freelance type work behind the scenes where it's not important what they do. It's just important that they're enjoying life the way they want to enjoy life. I like toys for the new generation.
Yeah, I like somebody asking Big Josh if he was down to party, and Big Josh going, "This vest don't even button, bro."
And they all had one black friend, and his name was Big Jack. Why do you call him Big Jack? Come on, get in the van. We'll show you.
He only wears a Speedo. Why do you think? Look at him.
Yeah, it's tough. I was sucked out of that world and groomed to be a gay. Literally sucked out of that world.
That's how you got groomed to be a gay.
Yeah.
I know, but it was so uncomfortable. He had no Big Jim about him. He could turn me into Drowsy, but that was through something. I'm not sure what. I do know this. There's not a drink you can take for a 1-hour flight that'll help you with jet lag. I do know that. I'm not saying we did drugs. I'm just saying that seems questionable.
Jesus.
I think Erickson's right. If Andy hadn't have been corrupted and fucked up, he'd be a very well-adjusted gay, probably married to like
Absolutely.
Anderson Cooper. Fucking
Yeah,
raising
exactly
his
right.
baby.
Keeping a perfect home for Anderson Cooper. Like when
Absolutely.
Anderson comes home from
that'd be
CNN,
awesome.
his
Andy,
dinner's
you guys would be
ready.
great together.
Wouldn't that be a nice
Like,
couple?
they go antiquing on Saturdays, and Andy picks out a new credenza, and Anderson like pretends to care what it looks like, and Andy's mad because he doesn't actually care.
I'm sorry, but I feel like I would be the Cooper Anderson in the relationship. I'm looking for a Clooney. I don't need no Cooper Anderson. And I was like,
and
no,
Anderson Cooper would be all happy because he finally had somebody to just dress him all the time. Andy would just fucking be putting outfits on him like a big.
I don't want to go antiquing when you want to go antiquing, Anderson. I want to go antiquing when I want to go antiquing.
Oh no, Andy's fighting with Anderson already. He's destroyed my fantasy.
Everybody at CNN would be like, Anderson, your wife is so funny.
What happened?
It must just be a riot to live with him.
What happened to the Scud Stud? Yeah, no, I don't. No, there's no. I'll tell you this. There's not an Anderson. There's not an Anderson Cooper Big Jim looking doll. You know, there's not one Big Jim that could. You know, so there you go. He's not my type.
70s, come on.
Yeah, but
you're talking about like the silver-haired fox kind of.
Anderson Cooper would interview the Big Jims about, you know, like, what do you guys actually do? It'd sound like Hennigan. What do you actually do with your day? Big Jim's like, shit, we don't do anything except each other.
Yeah. The only Anderson Cooper looking character was the dad from, or which one was it? Race Bandit from Johnny Quest.
Yeah.
Didn't one of those guys have like white hair, and like a full white beard, and it was like,
well, in the Big Jim universe,
Race Bannon maybe.
Big Jeff is blonde. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, but
I guess
white. I'm talking like Anderson Cooper white hair.
Big Jeff is probably the, you know, I don't like my, you know, I won't disparage one of my brothers, but he ain't number one. But I'd say after seeing the Big Jims recently, it's like, wow, I didn't know Big Jeff back in the day. I think I would have played with him more than some of the other men.
If I had to do it all over again.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I just didn't have him, you know, but I'm intrigued. Intrigued by this Big Jeff. You know, more so, I feel like their S&M characters kind of ruined it. But let's stick with just dudes. You know,
stick with what you know, Andy. I mean, that's really, if there's a takeaway here.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I guess it's probably for the best that they, you know, you couldn't put underpants on them. That they had those were glued on. I think it would have been frustrating to find out that they were. Yeah.
Shaylee, I have to tell you, your fucking green screen thing is fucking enhanced this podcast
it
so
really makes
much
it easier.
Because the Big Jim stories have been fantastic, but until you pulled up what the Big Jims looked like,
it opens up.
How would we have known?
It just was. I mean, it blew it up. I mean, so good job on that, sir.
Chad,
Thank
remember
you.
we were
Yeah, I thought he was going to throw some Jonas Huntley outfits up there, and I would have been like, I do have an Indian outfit.
Shaylee finds Jonas Huntley on Pinterest and finds some of her actual work.
I have an Indian outfit made by Jonas Huntley for myself, you know.
Oh no.
Well, of course.
Yeah, back then when you didn't think twice about wearing war paint and feathers and going around, but it was she made it out of, I remember this, it was like the worst fucking thing ever. It was like out of a potato bag or some shit.
Potato sack,
Yeah, it was
That's
like
what we thought those savages dressed in. So
do you still have that, Andy?
I have pictures of it. No, the outfit, no. But no, I don't think I wore it twice. It was like the worst, you know.
It was like a Halloween thing, right?
Yeah. And we went around and we, how and shit.
I don't know. Andy keeps weird shit.
Yeah, it is true.
And
you went around and said how and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. All the time, man.
It's like when Peter Brady got into the Bogart pork chops and applesauce.
Well,
Started talking like
shit.
Bogart around the house all day.
I remember what was really tough for me to take as a kid is when Bobby Brady embraced Billy the Kid and found out some of the bad shit Billy the
Yeah, it
Kid
turns
did.
out he
Yeah.
shot a bunch of guys in the back.
And then it just broke Bobby's heart. He couldn't do it no more, even though he met that old timer. Well, he met the old timer and he said, Billy, kid's no hero. It'd be like meeting some chick who worked with Louis C.K. on the road or something.
He comes off like a great guy, but if you knew what I knew. Oh, shit. All right. We got to get out of here. Thank
Hold on,
you,
I gotta give
everybody.
a plug. I gotta give a plug. Stand Up New Special is out. It's on Venmo right now, but it's gonna be out on another couple of platforms. It's The Dying of a Last Breed. I actually last night Doug he did a listening party with a bunch of nerds on a Discord feed, and Doug just sat there and listened to them as they laughed and talked about the whole thing.
Oh,
so I think it's the first time Doug's actually heard his set since he said it. But it's fantastic. Get it out there. It's on Venmo not Venmo. It's on Vimeo right now. And there's another thing that I hope by the next podcast we can announce on another platform that's pretty exciting. So yeah, that's
great.
That's what's out there. And the Patreon from the Shady Dell of the Doug Stanhope podcast is free. I put it for everyone. So go to patreon.com/Stanhope podcast and you can watch the video of us interviewing Bingo.
That was a fun one. Bingo was on there. It was great.
Oh, that's fantastic. I just saw the email this morning that I got it, so I haven't watched it yet.
I love those pictures Bingo's been posting. Bingo and
that's from Gretchen Bear, by the way.
Gretchen,
She's the one. I want to make some credit for those.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things that I've seen on the quarantine Bingo.
I did. I even did a Shaylee Cannonball on one of them.
Nice.
Yeah. One of the first ones, and she was up on top of the wall, standing there, like arms raised to the sun, like fucking Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're beautiful. Honest, it's fucking love seeing those too. So all right, anything else? Subscribe to Chad's Twitch channel with your Amazon Prime subscription. Thanks for being our Patreons. Send Andy some money so he can buy gummies.
Somewhere, just put it in an envelope and write Andy on it, and then
if you have big Jims, my PO box is 50482, Eugene, Oregon 97405. Outfits included, please.
I would love to see big Jims just start showing up behind Andy in these podcasts. It would be my favorite thing.
Yeah.
The price I saw him at.
Yeah. The way people send Stanhope vodka bottles, Andy just starts getting big cases of big Jims.
The only action doll I have is PTSD Joe. I have a G.I. Joe that I have on my desk, and he's got a gun in his mouth. It's like, I think Desert Storm or whatever. Anyway, his girlfriend hates him.
He's right for a big gym dance party.
We'll pick it up. We'll pick it up right there next time on Issues with Andy. We have to stop. We can start there. I can love you guys. All right, we'll see you.